the left isn't for them. That's why they go right in the first.
The left isn't, I mean, this is some, like, dumb dog shit. Like, the left isn't for them. Men? It's like, you're saying that the left should just be women and men should go to the right? Like, what the fuck are you trying to say here, dude? New Shoe on Head video, The Male Loneliness Epidemic. So, Shoe on Head is a political commentator that I don't know too much about outside of Twitter. This is going to be the first video of hers I've actually watched that's longer than 5 seconds long. So I don't know too much about her other than she has some level of notoriety among the left. From what I understand, back in the 2015, 2016, 2017 anti-SJW era, she was a pretty loud voice in that sphere, but apparently she has over time begun to skew more leftward, with some of her takes that I see on like Twitter and stuff remaining pretty enlightened centrist-y or reactionary even. But again, on Twitter, outside of a few instances, you'd think she's just another edgy, progressive, dirtbag left type, at least from my experience. I don't read every tweet she's ever sent. So I generally like her on Twitter. I disagree with her on certain things, but I've never actually watched a video of hers. I have covered the whole men's rights topic in the past. I have a few videos on it. I'm sure you can find them. One of the biggest issues going on right now is that men are becoming increasingly more misogynistic and conservative, with voices like Andrew Tate, Jordan Peterson, Joe Rogan, the W community, etc., commanding a huge audience of young men. So why has the right wing won the war on men? Well, as I've discussed before, my view on this lies on 2 points. Number one, they're offering overly simplistic, dumb, reductive solutions to the problems men face that tap into some of the most powerful instincts that young men have, such as misogyny. There is a reason that their terrible arguments especially work on impressionable young men. And number two, on why they're winning with men is because they're the only ones really creating content for men. The left is so preoccupied with everyone else. Now, why is that? Well, when tackling social issues, the left heavily emphasizes structural power. And who holds all the structural power in the world? Men. I think the general consensus among the left, myself included, is that while yes, men do face certain problems in our society, there are far more people facing far bigger issues to worry about first. There are communities and groups that are significantly more marginalized than men who, again, hold virtually all structural institutional power on the planet. Now, don't take that as me saying there aren't real issues that men face. There really are. So while the left is juggling trying to help everyone else, men's issues slip through the cracks and the right wing is there to catch them. And it's not helped by the fact that the left is actually kind of telling men that they can't act the way that they used to. Certain aspects of male behavior fall under the umbrella of toxic masculinity, which is a term I hate so fucking much. I'll make a video about this someday, but as someone who works in marketing, the left has an enormous issue with phrases and communication in general. Phrases like toxic masculinity, Black Lives Matter, ACAB, defund the police, we could go on, make our beliefs extremely inaccessible. Now, the reason for that is because left-of-center ideas tend to have more nuance than right-wing ideas and can't easily fit in a slogan like "Make America Great Again" or whatever. Like, that's utterly meaningless. But using phrases like toxic masculinity make left-of-center ideas inaccessible, even if they represent truthful concepts. Most people, and in this case men, will hear a term like that and immediately go on the defensive, making anything you say after you use that term moot. So yeah, one reason why the left has trouble appealing to men is because they're telling men that many of the things that they do can be shitty or even oppressive, and people just don't like to hear that sort of thing, even if it's true. The minute you tell someone that they're shitty to their face, they're going to not be charitable to you. Meanwhile, Andrew Tate and their ilk are saying, nah man, everything's fine. They're telling you to embrace the parts of masculinity that the left is telling you to recognize as problematic. It's a significantly bigger task to ask someone to recognize their problems and begin solving them, rather than just telling them that they don't have a problem in the first place. Everyone else is the problem. Andrew Tate is like a heroin dealer selling you shit that feels really good, but is ultimately fucking deadly, and is the reason why you're single. And the left is the boring ass social worker trying to get you clean, only they're really shitty at it, and mostly just make you feel bad about yourself. So this video is about male loneliness, which is one of those genuine problems that men face. I say this with first-hand experience. All I'm gonna say is that I do think that male loneliness stems from toxic masculinity. I wish there was a better term for it, but that's what we have. And it's about how toxic masculinity has historically and currently shaped men's behaviors and expectations. The rigid gender norms that Tate and others are trying to sell these young men are overall a bad thing, and make it difficult for men to express vulnerability with one another, which makes building deep connections difficult. Okay, let's finally get into the video, but first let me know in the comments where you think male loneliness stems from, and what solutions should the left be offering.
I regret to inform you, the men are not okay. That's right, folks. The men are not okay. The men have no friends, no girlfriend, no college education, no money, are breaking their legs and inserting metal rods into their bones to be a few inches taller, and listening to AI Batman help them overcome their pornography addictions.
You deserve real love.
Turns out the society that was built by and allegedly for men has indeed let them down. Now you might be thinking, oh look, another boo-hoo poor men video by Shoe on Head. Yes. And if you have a problem with that, tune into literally anything else.
Yeah, I mean, she brought up a point that I made in my intro, that, like, the left just isn't talking about men. Like, she's, like, the only person, like, left adjacent. Like, again, I don't want to say she's on the left. I don't know if she'd define herself that way. But that is talking about this issue, frankly. I have watched a lot of leftist content on this channel. We've tackled trans rights, gay rights, everyone else's rights but men. So, yeah, she brings up a pretty good point here. But again, there are reasons to that. It's not like there are no coherent reasons for that. This is a problem with the left that I think should be addressed. But again, there are reasons for it.
Men are in a crisis, and it seems nobody really cares. And the people who do care just seem like the people who want to sell them shit. Not me. I'm different. So before we get into...
Well, can she, maybe she'll bring it up, but like, I would ask, why are no one caring? I explained why I think, quote, no one cares. I think in this case she's referring to the left, probably, generally speaking. But I would ask her, why is no one caring?
To this, let's quickly get into today's sponsor.
What? No.
Today's sponsor is Holtz.
F that,
and
yo.
Thank you, the viewer, as always, for not skipping the ad.
Why are men
Wait a minute.
and boys
Called
struggling?
out.
And what should we do about it?
A few new studies have come out that have shown that young men are more lonely and single than ever before. But it's not just men. The women and children, too. It's predicted 45% of women will be single and childless by 2030. But according to the media, this is a good thing. The she-economy is booming, as they say. And meanwhile, men being single is treated like this.
New study explains why some single men are having a hard time finding a new partner.
Some of the music that they listen to speaks very derogatory.
Right.
Yeah, man, stop listening to that derogatory music. Then maybe you won't be single. I don't know, I think men and women being single and lonely kind of shows there might be something wrong with society. Perhaps we should address this, not just wave it off as empowering or pathetic. According to several different
I don't know if I immediately love the way she's characterizing, like, women being single as empowering. Like, it is a good thing that, like, women are focusing more on themselves or even their careers rather than, like, the traditional gender roles or, like, being a trad wife or whatever. But the solution to this issue, maybe the women's issue, is definitely not going back to just being a trad wife, okay? I hope that's not her view on this. Again, I have absolutely no idea.
articles. I love how that's my source. I read about it on the internet. Research shows that people from individualist countries show a greater sense of loneliness. This is linked to socioeconomic development, increased education, a shift towards white-collar jobs, and urbanization.
Boom. So capitalism is the problem. Individualization is the problem. I do agree with that, for sure. That I'm not a hyper-individualist whatsoever. So maybe collectivism, aka socialism, is what we need to get our fellas, where they need to be.
Japan also has an issue with loneliness. In fact, they have a whole movement of people they call the hikikomori. Did I say that right?
I have not heard about this. I am not weeb enough to know what that is.
I don't care. Basically, postmodern hermits. Mostly young men who completely withdraw from society.
Oh, I have heard about this.
Secluding themselves in their rooms for months and years at a time.
Wait, that's not normal?
In 2010, there was an estimated 700,000 hikikomori in Japan. And
Holy shit! That can't be right. What the fuck? What's the population of Japan? Like 100 million or so? So like 1 in 150 Japanese people are just like secluded in their homes for months on end? I mean, that kind of happens in America. Like we all know people like that in America too. Like NEETs, I think, is a term people use. Anyway.
Today, it's estimated to be about 1.55 million. And because of things like
Oh shit, so that was before. So right now it's 1.5 million. So like 1 in 100 Japanese people are just like living in their rooms for months on end. Again, my default is like blame capitalism.
this, people aren't having babies, so Japan's population has been in a sharp decline since 2011. It's gotten so bad that Japan even produces videos of live-action women staring into the camera to help the hikikomori learn to cope with eye contact and reintegrate them back into society.
They can't even make eye contact with people?
So basically, if you want to know America's future, look no further than Japan. A lot of people, including myself, blame this partially on the rise of social media and technology. RIP to the king. Although technology makes things easier, it can also make us more atomized. Why go to the mall when I can just tap, 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 buy a new microphone, and have it shipped to me in a day? Why hang out with friends when I can get all my social interaction I need from Twitter and streamers? Why?
Yeah, I mean, and I'm sure I'm speaking to a lot of people watching this right now. Friend groups among young men, in like my experience, like seeing young men around me, almost entirely live on Discord now. Now, I don't know if that's like because I usually hang out with like nerdier people, but huge amounts of like men hanging out with each other is relegated to Discord now, which I think partially is a good thing. Like, 20, 30 years ago, you couldn't be friends with someone living, on the other side of the country, but now there's more people to be friends with. It's easier to find people who are, more like you, that have the interests you have in certain respects. But I guess you are missing that like physical connection. But maybe I'm just like a nerdy introvert, but like online friendships, online relationships, online gaming, online hanging out, like it feels about the same to me.
I go on dates and bother meeting women when I could just tap, 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 Google big boob and get 2 million results. Or see my high school crush's holes on OnlyFans for...
Okay, so she's making like an anti-porn stance? Why go meet a girl or a woman or whatever if there's just easy access to porn? I don't know. Maybe there's like, I haven't done any like actual sociological research on this or whatever, but off the cuff, I don't really buy that as like that big a factor. Not to say it's not a factor at all. I do think porn can like skew your view on sex and relationships to a certain extent, but the idea that it's like stopping men from wanting to date women, I don't buy. Men are obviously very physical with their attraction, but that's not like the only reason why men want to date women. Anyway, let's continue.
Only $5. Instant dopamine, instant satisfaction, and hey, who even needs a real woman when you could just have an AI girlfriend? We're so fucked. Dating apps really are the great Satan, and I'm convinced they've completely broken men's brains. Women on dating apps are picky. Women in general are picky, and I mean, naturally we are pickier. We're the ones who carry the babies. At least for now. But on dating apps, you have to admit, it's a little insane. It's safe to say that the commodification of love and the window shopping of dating apps probably has to do a lot with the rise of lonely single men. Men are not just lonely when it comes to dating, they're lonely.
Maybe? But wasn't this exact thing an issue before dating apps too? Like the same dudes who couldn't get a girl without the dating app are still not getting the girl with the dating app. Does that make sense? It's like, okay, maybe before dating apps, before the internet age, it was easier to like settle down and get married to someone, but there's a reason all of these boomer ass marriages end up in divorce. That wasn't a good system either. I don't know, it's a multifaceted issue for sure.
Only when it comes to friendship too. According to Vox, Americans are currently in a friendship recession, and men are being hit the hardest. The percentage of men who
can relate
reported having at least 6 close friendships fell in half since the 90s. 1 in 5 men say they have no close friendships.
All true, all probably true. I'm just not convinced that like porn and like Discord and like dating apps are the reason for this? Am I like missing something? Please let me know.
Looking at all these statistics, the explosion of figures like Andrew Tate is not surprising at all.
I believe being a man is a blessing because it starts so difficult. I believe that every man is born without any value at all. I think that the world's never going to think you're important unless you make yourself important.
And
God, what a dumb piece of shit. Oh yeah, this graph. I was going to talk about this in my intro, but I guess I forgot to mention it. yeah, like boys are beginning to skew significantly more conservative than we've ever seen in modern history, which is, it sucks, man.
A new study came out about how young men are moving towards the right. And every other month, we, the liberal, sockdem, leftist, whatever you want to call the space online, performs the same song.
Liberal, sockdem, leftist. Okay, so I think I know roughly where she considers herself to be in. I think she's like too smart to like be a conservative SJW hater at this point, but it's really hard to kick old habits. So she's gonna have the occasional like I said, like reactionary comment, but it does seem like she generally considers herself to be like more progressive, like sockdem level progressive. So I think it's a good thing.
And dance. What's wrong with men? Why is this happening? Why don't we have a leftist Andrew Tate? We need to push men to the left. Andrew Tate rarely, if ever, talks about politics. Andrew Tate talks about men, and the left only talks about men when they talk about Andrew Tate. A few months ago, during one of the monthly song and dances, some progressive people I follow made the mistake of addressing men's issues, and the even bigger mistake of pointing their finger at their own spaces for not.
The reason young men flock to alt-right men's rights activist movements is because the left gives brain-dead advice to young men. We need to be more compassionate to them for our own sake. Yeah, I mean, what? As someone who, like, follows a lot of left people, who's, like, relatively close to the left at this point, I couldn't even tell you what advice this guy could possibly be referring to. The left isn't giving any advice to young men. No advice at all. We're telling them things like you can't be super sexist to women and sexually harass them or whatever. But that's not advice. No one on the left is giving any advice to men. Like I said, my theory is we're just too fucking preoccupied with everyone else. And again, it's because the left focuses so much on who has institutional power. That's like the entire concept of leftism in general is like power structure. And so when men are at the top of this power structure, they're not who it's not who the left are going to be talking about. We need to be more compassionate to them. I mean, there is some truth to that for sure, but there is like an underlying root to the way leftists address problems that makes this difficult, I guess.
We're not doing enough to address said men's issues.
Recently, there were some statistics by healthcare company Cigna indicating that men are the loneliest generation. And addressing it doesn't mean that you turn your back on issues pertaining to women, but it does mean that we should be focused on what it is in society that is leading to this epidemic, what the left can do to offer solutions, and how we can basically fight back against the more nefarious figures who have filled the void that men are struggling with, people like Jordan Peterson and what have you. Now, recently, Vosh, who's a popular streamer, had tweeted this thread that I think is really, really important to address. He writes, "I cannot stress enough how important it is to understand that 12-year-old white boys on Twitch are not being pulled into fascism because of some Machiavellian desire to preserve and expand their privileges. It's because the right talks to them and the left doesn't."
The responses to these tweets and this content were very normal, level-headed, and respectful. Me when I lie. LMAO, cry about it. Boo.
Wait, was that Hassan? Was that my guy? I don't know if this is like the best response to this.
LMAO, cry about it. Boo.
Cry about it, boo fucking who. As a guy who's always had more difficulty dating and making connections than my peers through life, these convos about loneliness and men always hurt more. A lot of people just do. Boo fucking who. Yeah. And again, like, I think it has something to do with like men in general being seen by the left as the one holding all the structural power. And from a left-wing perspective, if you hold institutional power in any capacity, you're seen as an oppressor. Now, I do think there is truth to that concept, broadly speaking, in the most broad terms possible. Again, that is like what leftism is, from what I can tell. But reactions like this aren't exactly helpful either. And I think that's the point Shu is trying to make here.
Boo f***ing who? Oh no, poor widow men having problems. Boo f***ing who? Grow the f*** up then. Have men considered being smarter? I'm enjoying all these sad little moids and their sad little tweets about their sad, pathetic lives. Sounds like a personal problem.
Yeah, and I'm gonna say this too. The people you see in Twitter threads like this don't necessarily represent the, like, majority of people's opinions. You're on fucking Twitter, okay? With that said, she is bringing up a good point about how, yeah, a lot of the way the left views men or treats men. But again, there's like, I don't want to play both sides here because there is like a reason for it. This shit just isn't good. I'm not saying this is good. What we're seeing here is not a good thing. It's not healthy. It's not helpful in any capacity. But one, I don't see it as like any sort of majority on the left. And two, there are like reasons for this perspective, I guess. Let's continue.
Is the lack of compassion for men in the room with us right now? Maybe men are just not good people then. I'm so fucking tired of people trying to make male loneliness a huge societal problem.
I mean, again, I think it has something to do with the root way that like the left addresses problems, and it comes down to who holds the institutional power. It's like, despite male loneliness, men are still on top, like in almost every sphere, outside of like who wins on Tinder, I guess. Everywhere else, men are on top. So while there are real, tangible issues that men face, the left is just going to focus on everyone else first. I'm not saying the left shouldn't address men. I'm just trying to explain why it doesn't happen.
Yeah, no, their fifis are not my responsibility, and I shouldn't have to be punished because they can't get their shit together as human beings.
Yeah.
Grow the f*** up.
This shit's
Why
not
are we
good.
trying to win these entitled little predators over? The left isn't for them. That's why they go right in the first.
The left isn't, I mean, this is some like dumb dog shit. Like, the left isn't for them. Men? It's like, you're saying that the left should just be women and men should go to the right? Like, what the fuck are you trying to say here, dude?
Place. We're all lonely and alienated. It's young men going to the alt-right in droves. The problem isn't our messaging, it's them.
I mean, the problem isn't our messaging, it's them. No, that's not exactly true. The problem is our messaging, or more specifically, our lack thereof.
It's literally not our problem. Men flock to Andrew Tate not because they're lonely, but because they're bigots. Hope this helps. Nah, it's just misogynists being.
Look, you can find dumbasses, a million dumbasses on Twitter with like one fucking like in any political spectrum doing dumbass things that you don't agree with. Maybe this guy identifies as like a progressive Marxist-Leninist who gives a fuckist, and he's still gonna say like dumb fucking shit, okay? This is funny, and it does bring up good points, but I need to stress that like bringing up individual Twitter comments, which I have done as well, is not a great way to point out overall sentiment, I guess. I don't know. We're focusing on like the 15% of dumbasses that exist in any movement, and ignoring the 85% who don't think these things.
Louder than before, not getting laid, lol. Cry harder, losers. 90% of all homicides recorded worldwide were committed by male perpetrators. We should just get rid of all males, to be honest. This includes trans women, as they still retain male violence. By the way, you know the Tumblr feminists who were like, all men are sexist and rapists, male tears, penises are evil, blah 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 back in the day? Well, this is them now. Should've just let me cook back then. Listen up, chuckle. I'm white, socially awkward, autistic, in my 40s, ugly, overweight, crippled, got a weird balding pattern, and have bad skin. You know what I didn't do? Choose to become a fascist, because I recognize most of the sort that look like me are the problem. I may be hideously ugly and pathetic, but at least I'm not a fascist. Thank you for your input, buddy. You're, really helping the situation. The reason young men flock to alt-right MRA movements is because the left gives brain-dead advice to young men. We need to be more compassionate to them, for our own sake. I'm sorry, but how is respect women brain-dead advice? What advice? Don't rape?
Well, that's what I was, isn't this exactly what I said when I first read this tweet? Yeah, I mean, we're not giving them advice. We're giving them orders, essentially. Meanwhile, the right is giving them advice. It's just shitty, fucked up advice. Like if we're talking about Andrew Tate, his advice is do rape.
Don't be a rapist is bad advice. Help, I have no friends or community. I feel suicidal. Have you considered not raping? Act like a
Yeah, that's the reality is men just, the left just aren't giving men any advice, as I was saying.
Fucking human being, it's not hard, is brain dead advice. Brain dead advice like get consent and don't be a Nazi and women are people. Walking up to men struggling with loneliness and depression like
Kids, don't be racist.
incredible. Here's my actual advice.
It's not
I would give
advice.
to my teen boys as a leftist. 1. Always get enthusiastic consent. 2. Save the planet. 3. Don't say that. It's actually kind of racist. Like, what the f is this? How does this address men and their issues?
That tweet made me want to fucking die, dude. Oh my fucking god. She's 100% right here. I mean, shoe on head is 100% right here.
Doesn't. Why does their advice always seem to be, become a liberal? Hey men, here's how to fix all your problems. Agree with me politically. Men flock to the MRA movement because they're the largest beneficiaries of MRA shit. Imagine saying women flock to women's rights activism because they're the biggest beneficiaries of women's rights. Like, no f***ing shit. Let's be honest. Aside from procreation purposes, men have become obsolete. Most women can find other methods of achieving orgasm without a man there. And speaking as a man, most of us are hard to be around, and I don't blame any woman for just saying, no thanks.
Oh, bro. God, dude. Please. No, dude. God, we need to delete Twitter. Oh my fucking god. We're fucking doomed, dude. It's Jover. I need like a soy jack with like this quote next to it, man. Yeah, this shit as like a soy liberal leftist whatever. This shit is embarrassing, dude. Oh my god. It's one thing to point out that like men's behavior throughout history has had some issues. That doesn't mean the left, progressives, etc. are saying you need to hate men. And again, I want to point out that like cherry picking fucking Twitter comments is not the best way to like make your argument. Maybe I'm fucking wrong. I don't know. But I don't think this sort of sentiment is any sort of like has any sort of real popularity among like leftist or progressive movements. This is just like one profoundly sad man making a very stupid comment. Most of us are horrid to be around. Oh my lord.
Oh my god, dude. This is what every Just Pearly Things tweet looks like to me. Just with the genders swapped. This is pathetic. You know what fixes male loneliness? Jerking off. As a man, I'll say this. Sit down, shut up, and beat one out. You'll feel better. I promise. Yeah, guys, just beat one out. Just off. Just watch porn. Batman will be very disappointed in all of you.
Hey, I mean, post-nut clarity is real, Shu. That's something you'll never understand, straight up.
So funny how men feel entitled to a girlfriend. No, you sexist freak. When one side is like, wanting a girlfriend is sexist entitlement, and the other side is like, here's how to get a girlfriend. I don't know, bro. What happened to males just kicking the bucket? Now they just come on here and try to make their loneliness and misery into some social justice issue. Oh, trust me, men are still kicking the bucket. And when they're not giving mind-blowing advice like just to be a liberal, they're outright dismissing men's issues completely. It's not our job to educate them. Since men created the problem, they need to take steps to fix it. We have other things to care about.
Exactly. I mean, I don't agree with the rest of this sentiment. Men can figure it out on their own, but like, if I'm going to say there is the real issue that leftists and progressives and liberals have on the subject of men's rights is this one. We have other things to care about. Now, the rest of this is, you know, unhinged and stupid, but And I'm not saying this is a good thing that like men, liberals feel this way necessarily. But if there is a reason why, the left doesn't talk about men, it's this one. They just have other things to care about, and arguably more important things to care about, I guess, I would say. But I guess my perspective on this is that we should still make time for men, but it's just hard. It's hard when you have to care about everyone and everything else 24/7, and it's fucking easy when you're a conservative and you don't have to care about anyone fucking ever.
Men can figure out their own problems that they created. Again, it's not women's jobs to change how men are socialized. It's a man issue, and y'all need to address that amongst yourselves. Men created their own problems. Men can solve their own problems. The left is busy.
Yeah, again, like, maybe she's gonna disagree with me here, and I'm not saying I think this is how it should be necessarily. Again, I feel like I'm repeating myself. But this is why. The left is just busy. It's the truth.
Why does the well-being of other people concern me? Leftist, by the way. It's all systemic issues and societal factors and blah 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 until it's a man, and then suddenly it's pull yourselves up by your bootstraps.
Yeah, that's stupid. Not her comment. What she's saying is partially true. When I say what I'm saying, I'm not trying to disregard the problems that men face. I think there are, as a man living in fucking society, there are real problems that men face. I think it's just the way the left approaches problems, like who has the structural power, that sort of thing.
Problem is just a consequence of the patriarchy. Now take a wild guess about which gender created the patriarchy. Solve your own problems and leave women alone. These people rightly mock the bootstraps rhetoric until the subject is a man, and then it's bootstraps all the way down. They would never talk about any other group this way. It's wild.
Again, in this case, I think she's somewhat cherry-picking, like, the most dumb, unhinged Twitter fucking idiots. Not to completely disregard her point here, I do agree to an extent, but, there is additional context, I guess.
And it's kind of like both sides are telling men to pull themselves up by their bootstraps, but one is like, I'll show you how, and the other is like, fuck off. And when they're not telling men to straight up fuck off, they're giving the 200 IQ answer that nobody has ever heard before. Just show your emotions, bro. And I'm not dismissing this problem, okay? I've made videos talking about this. Oh, you're crying at your grandfather's funeral? Okay, faggot. And studies have shown that men are scared to be vulnerable, even around the homies. And can you blame them when the media says stupid like this? Fellas, is it woke to open up to your fellow men and discuss history? Men are socialized to believe strength, dominance, and stoicism are behaviors of a real man. Is it any surprise that men are lonely and have less friends nowadays? Yeah. You have to be vulnerable to make friends. Don't tell me there aren't systemic problems affecting men.
Yeah, I mean, last sentence aside, this is pretty much what I said earlier, was that, like, the way we teach men to be makes it hard to build those sorts of connections. I say this with, like, personal anecdotes. Like, I remember, like, male friends I had growing up, like, refusing to show that vulnerability. And it made becoming close friends, like, long-lasting friends, difficult. What's the solution here, then? Like, that's the left saying, don't do that thing you've been socialized to do. We face an uphill fucking battle telling guys to be more vulnerable when all of our structures, all of our institutions say to do the opposite. Most men are told by their parents from a young age not to do that. So by the time they reach their late teens and early adulthood, when they hear someone go, be more vulnerable, it sounds contradictory to them. And that's, again, an uphill battle. Left-wing advice, quote unquote, or whatever the fuck you want to call it, telling men to be vulnerable is a good thing. Let's just use that as the singular example here. That is a good thing that the left is telling men to do. If more men did that, there would be fewer problems for men, in my opinion, 100%. But that perspective, that advice requires you to go against cultural hegemony, which is not an easy task.
Now, while a lot of this may be true, men have been socialized this way for centuries, and this is all relatively a new phenomenon. Toxic masculinity has existed forever. If anything, there's less toxic masculinity nowadays. The cultural embrace of, like, gender nonconformity, femboys, Harry Styles in a dress, Barbie movie, blah 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 blah. My point is, toxic masculinity did not just appear in the mid-2010s. But social media did, and the internet did, and the rise of dating apps did, and the housing crisis, and living in a country where the wealth inequality is worse than it was during the Gilded Age. That all happened recently. Oh my
That yeah, I think it's more that than it is like maybe like obviously I don't want to say social media, porn or whatever don't have an effect on this, but I'm gonna go the easy way out here and just blame capitalism. Boom, leftist.
Oh my god, the privileged life these poor little
I'm
boys
only half
must
joking.
have, that their biggest problem is being lonely, i.e. so
Yeah.
insufferable that nobody wants to sleep
These
with
comments
them.
are
so much more pressing than the poor distribution of wealth causing people to suffer food and housing insecurity.
I mean, yeah, dude, it's exactly what I said. The sentiment is true. There are people, like marginalized people, facing bigger issues.
Boo-hoo, you're lonely and have no friends and are suicidal when? Because feeling alienated under capitalism apparently isn't a thing. People are working harder and longer.
Damn. That's like an actual leftist talking point. Like, I don't know. I don't know much about Shoe One Head, but some of the stuff she's saying here is like spitting.
While wages have been stagnant, men have been dropping out of college like flies, and what does that get you? Poor men. Which, since women are doing amazing in college now, and many are now out-earning men, this most of the time leads to single men, which then leads to lonely men, which leads to depressed men, which leads to the high rate. In my opinion, leftism at a policy level does a great job addressing the shitty material conditions that in part lead to the problems that men are facing.
There's like leftists watching this, there's gonna be like buzzwords like, ooh, she just said material conditions? Huh. Anyway, I'm gonna roll it back a little bit.
Rate. In my opinion, leftism at a policy level does a great job addressing the shitty material conditions that in part lead to the problems that men are facing, but then absolutely drops the ball when it comes to everything and anything related to men's cultural issues. Many such cases. And why would a struggling man even want to move left when the left appears actively hostile to them?
The question of whether or not the hashtag...
Who is this? I don't know who this guy is, but I immediately, like, my first thought was Heath Ledger's Joker.
online left does enough to appeal to hashtag men has become the question du jour. And, like, men have most of the money, authority, and do most of the murdering and assaulting.
The average young man in America isn't Jeff Bezos. Also, why did this motherfucker just FBI crime statistics at me? Men do the most murder. Okay?
They like having all of the stuff they don't deserve. They like that. They want it to stay that way.
Yeah, I don't buy this sort of take. I don't buy that, like, and I talked about this in one of my other videos, that, like, people are flocking, like, men are flocking to Andrew Tate because, like, they specifically, like, actively, knowingly want to preserve patriarchal structures or whatever the fuck.
Because it suits them. Because of the stuff, telling people they're special and deserve all the nice shit that they have, that's going to be an easier sell 10 times out of 10 than, like, saying, hey, maybe you should have less stuff and other people should have more.
Leftism is when you don't have a lot of stuff. We're gonna take your stuff. You sound like a 65-year-old Fox News boomer's idea of what the left is. Are you a CIA agent? The right is saying to men, you will own a house. You will have beautiful children with your loving wife. You will have privacy. You will have free speech. You will own things, and you will be happy. And the left is like...
They like having all of the stuff they don't deserve.
But don't get me wrong, Republicans will not do shit. The Republican Party will not do shit. The establishment in general will not do shit to help any of this.
This is
but
true.
The right is, at least rhetorically, offering men something other than nothing or the eternal HR department. Every time this discord comes up, there's people like, we need a leftist Andrew Tate. We need masculine role models on the left. But the fact is, it's hard for progressives to organically appeal to men, because a large part of progressivism is oppressive hierarchies. And
okay, yeah, I mean, I don't know where she's going to take this, but that's exactly what I was saying.
Men are oppressors. Making progressivism look appealing to young men is an uphill battle from the start. And although it's funny to laugh at insane people on Twitter, as always, there have been a lot of left-wing content creators talking about men's issues. If you would have
not a lot. Maybe I'm watching the wrong leftists or something, but, like, I don't want to say there's nearly as big of a, like, you know, seller's market on the left of, like, men's topics.
Told me this would be a thing 9 years ago, I would not believe you, because anyone talking about men's issues back in the day was called an MRA or a pick-me. But lately I have seen a lot of good pro-men lefty content, and I'll put some links to some below.
Let's see. Some pro-men lefty liberal vids. Alright, we'll check these out in a sec.
I don't agree with all the points they say, but I recommend watching. It's much better than...
They like having all of the stuff they don't deserve.
But the issue is a lot of this lefty pro-men content, it's always framed around how do we get them? As if men are just pawns and tools for your personal politics. How do we make the left more appealing to men? How do we stop lonely men from moving to Andrew Tate? Instead of just, how do we help men? And I think that's a really big issue. Both sides seem to treat men as political fodder. Disposable soldiers in the culture war and real war.
Hold on, I'm gonna be honest, the last, 7 seconds of what she said, I didn't hear, so I'll roll it back. My question is, why is her mic backwards? I have the same mic, it's a Blue Yeti. But, it's backwards. And, if you it can pick up back here, but you need to have it on, the right setting, which means that, the front mic over here is also getting picked up. Which is why, hers sounds way more echoey than mine. I mean, maybe it's the room that she's in contributing it to, but I'm in, a big, the basement of my house. I'm in, a big room, but it doesn't sound very echoey. But I was wondering, why does it sound this way? So maybe it's a stylistic choice, or maybe she's just a dumb broad who doesn't know how to use technology. Don't cancel me, all right? But, yeah, I don't know why she's doing it that way. Maybe it's because she doesn't want it to be super close to her face? So that maybe the gain is up high? I don't know anything about mics. I don't want to sound like I know a lot about mics. I don't know fucking shit about mics or technology in general. My gaming PC is pre-built. I don't like that sort of thing. Anyway, let's roll it back a little bit.
Of just, how do we help men? And I think that's a really big issue. Both sides seem to treat men as political fodder. Disposable soldiers in the culture war and real war. Anyway, misandry is real. Oh good, finally! And while it doesn't systemically affect cis men, it most certainly affects trans men. Oh.
Yeah. Not true. Misandry does systemically affect men. I've talked about this before. I'm not saying there are no systemic issues that face men. I'm not trying to say that at all.
Y'all talking about misandry doesn't harm men, and trans men are right there reading this shit, by the way. I see, now we only care about misandry because it affects trans men. Everyone stop! It's affecting a group I care about now. I love how the rhetoric just, evolved overnight, from male tears to cis male tears. And I just have to ask, why aren't you including trans men in your misandry,
Because you found, two dumbass Twitter dumbasses. I don't know. I don't super buy this as a compelling argument against the left here.
Nobody told me how lonely being a man is. We knew what depth felt like before we transitioned. We knew what it felt like to have people want to hug us and to have people want to talk to us and to have a community. And then you transition and you're just a guy walking down the street that people cross the street so that they're not near you. And friendships are so much harder to build. What's hard is none of this invalidates how real and raw women and people who are in marginalized groups feel about cis white men. All of that's valid. But I also now understand why the suicide rate is so much higher in men.
Welcome to being a man. Here's your complimentary isolation and yellow pillow. I love how even when he's
Yo. That was too real, bro. What the fuck?
experiencing the issues of being a man, he's
Stop!
this doesn't
Why are you calling me out? What the fuck?
validate people hating men. Come on, bro. Men struggling don't want to be lectured about the patriarchy. They don't want to be told it's all their fault.
It's true.
They don't want to be told they're part of the problem because, first of all, they're not.
Well, I don't know, but I mostly agree with what she's saying here.
Average 20-year-old didn't build society. They go to work, come home, off to sissy hypno fetish porn, and go to bed like everyone else.
Yeah, I guess there's a little more nuance to it than I think she's presenting there, but I don't worry, I see her overall point. There's just always more nuance to these things.
Talked about this before, but a lot of men's value comes from the money they make, unfortunately. Men are natural providers, and if they have nobody to provide for, They get into findom or send random girls on the internet money. I'm just kidding, but the fact is, a lot of men simply feel like they don't have a purpose anymore. Whether a job or a career that's fulfilling and pays well, or a woman or family to protect and take care of and provide for, men are lacking purpose. And a man will crawl through broken glass for a purpose. But you know who does make them feel like they have a purpose? No, not him.
I say that life as a man is exceptionally difficult. I say the most beautiful and the most terrifying thing about being a man is you're born without value. Society doesn't care about you.
The absolute audacity to act shocked that Andrew Tate is scooping these guys up after a decade of lol male tears is insane. Andrew Tate isn't the solution to men's problems, but he is talking to them. The fact is, you did not care about them
Correct.
for years. And even now you just want to recruit them, not help them. And that's why you will fail.
I don't know if that's, again, totally accurate.
And hey, maybe I'll be the Andrew Tate of the left. Men, listen up. Wash your penis. So
Fuck
I guess
no!
I'll leave you guys with a question. Why do you think male loneliness has been increasing? What are your solutions for this problem? And are you dealing with loneliness?
Yeah, well, to that question, yes. I mean, I'm not single, but like, friendship-wise, yeah. But why are men experiencing this? Capitalism. I overall like this video. As my first Shoe on Head video, I liked it. Maybe we'll watch more of her stuff later, and I will find out why I need to hate her, like a lot of leftists seem to tell me I should do. But overall, I like this video, and I do like her tweets. Like I said at the beginning, like overall, she seems like a fairly progressive person.